Hello and welcome to EduChemy's Gazette discussion for 4th June 2021. My name is Harsh Singh and I shall take you through all the articles that we have covered today. Keeping a pen and paper handy will help you quickly note down the important keywords and terms, memorize them instantly, and revise them during the time of examination, thus saving a lot of time. Today, we have covered precision farming in the featured section. We talk about the need for precision farming in India, its features, and how it can help the agricultural productivity in the country. This day in history is about 4th June protest at Tiananmen Square in China in the 1980s. The news snapshot section contains three important articles. The first one is about the Sustainable Development India Index for the current year. Second article is International Labour Organization's World Employment and Social Outlook report. The third article speaks about BRIC nations coming together to speak for reforms in global institutions. Image of the day is the South Korean seed vault, an image of this vault. Terms and concepts are important from the pre-exam perspective, and we have talked about four important events in this week. First is the new mission to Venus. Why Venus? And what is happening in this mission? The second one is about bird flu spread in China and its transmission to humans. The third article is the Section 51 of Disaster Management Act. It has been in news because of the federal tussle between center and West Bengal government. The fourth article is related to science and technology, which talks about purifying water through the use of Ayurveda and scientific technology. Good article. We have covered two editorials for today. One is about sister island development, right? And the second one is about water's value. This is about the importance of water in the Indian context. The case study of today is a very interesting one, relates to Ladakh and education. So let's begin. Before we move on to understand what is precision farming, we must understand the regular method of farming in India. These images rightly depict how inputs are indiscriminately used in India. For example, spraying of pesticide, indiscriminate, large in quantity, flooding of fields with water, wasting of water. Thus, a lot of input is wasted during the agricultural practice in India. Imagine a system in which one could observe the requirements, the requirement of amount of water required, the fertilizer required, and the amount of pesticide to be sprayed. Imagine a system in which one could gauge easily which field will need how much of inputs, how much of manure, and how much of pesticides, and then springing into action to deliver the same. This is called as precision, delivering as much as required, being to the point, accurate. And this is what happens when we try to adopt precision agriculture practices. Look at these images. A drone applying fertilizers to the plants here. The methodology used for irrigating the agricultural fields, right? This is called as precision agriculture, where the input is applied to the point at the right time, thus not wasting the inputs. Coming back, many countries like China, Japan, Southeast Asian countries, America, etc., they have started to use precision farming in their agricultural practices. It is high time India also starts it. Why? Let's see why. See, India has got a lot of agricultural land, one of the highest in the world. India is also one of the key producers, key agricultural producers around the world. A lot of people are employed. So it definitely shows the significance of agriculture in our industry. However, a lot of challenges do exist in our agriculture sector. For example, one is very low productivity as compared to the other nations. Then the size of the land holding in India is very small. 80% of the farmers are small and marginal. The input use efficiency, that means the amount of input we use and the amount of output we get for that particular input is low. We have high biotic losses, That means agricultural waste is high. We have less mechanization. Now, these are a number of points which show that Indian agriculture does have some issues with it, which can be sorted, right? What do we need? We need a lot of technologies in energy management, nutrient management, pest, pasture land, erosion, right? So this diagram depicts the places where a lot of benefits can be applied if scientific practices are applied in the technology of agricultural management, right? This is where precision farming comes into play. As I shared earlier, precision farming is about observation, then measuring the impact and input required, and then coming into action, right? So there are two important inputs in precision farming. One, understanding through the help of data and analysis what is the observation and how much of input is required, right? So this is where big data and advanced analytics will come into play. And the second one is use of automated technologies like robotics to deliver those inputs, right? So please do remember two important points here: big data and analysis along with robotics, right? These are the key ingredients of precision farming, right? So how will it aid the farming sector in India? In multiple ways. I will give you one simple example. For example, if we are on the earth and here is India, the satellite here is observing Indian subcontinent. It can tell about the weather changes at a particular place. It can talk about the color of the harvest. Suppose if the harvest of rice is yellow in color, it is time to harvest it, right? So there are a lot of inputs, data inputs, which can be provided through data analytics and its its understanding, and then automated technologies could be applied to later deliver the required services, all automated, right? This is what is called as precision farming. It can help in planning of the soil and field. It can also tell about how much of manure is required by testing the soil, right? Crop monitoring, it can monitor the crop. For example, if there are some insects, it can tell if the crop is a failure right now or not, right? So these kind of things, if input is given, it can help to understand if insurance must be disbursed to people or not, right? So it can help in faster disbursal of insurance as well. Management of flood, or understanding of how much crop has gotten destroyed in a disaster, right? It can help us understand the biotic and abiotic stress. If there is drought, what is the percentage of drought in the particular region, right? So these are some of the advantages it can deliver through precision farming by analyzing big data. It can help protect the crops from weeds, pests, and diseases, right? Imagine if there's a locust attack and we come to know beforehand, a lot of crop can be saved in the country, right? It can help give the farmers real-time feedback, right? The weather in the current month, the amount of rainfall that is going to happen in this season. This can help farmers be prepared, best prepared for the seasonal vagaries, right? This is what is called as climate smart agriculture, and how precision farming can help it, right? It can help monitor the yield, right? And this is how India can also design strategies to be able to export the yield if in surplus, right? So these are some very good points how precision farming can help. However, there are challenges. There are challenges to precision farming. How? See, one is resistance. We discussed on the 31st May newsletter what are the challenges of farming in India. First of all, people have resistance to change. Why? Because there's already a system set up. For example, in North India, there is a contract system set up. I had already discussed this in the 31st May Gazette. Contract farming enforces that people look at only small time benefits, and thus people don't want to change to better technology for long-term benefits. People keep cultivating. The big farmers have given their land to small agricultural people who cultivate for 1 year or two, receive small benefits and go. Nobody looks for the long-term benefits. Then we have already got an established mechanism. When there is already established mechanism for procurement, for supply of products, for inputs. There are subsidies being given by government. There is free electricity. There is water inside the earth. Why do we change? So there is a resistance to change. That is why resistance to precision farming as well. As simple. So they won't adopt the information and communication technology. Why change? Why take that trouble? We are getting the money already. Another issue is that all these equipments, gadgets, robotics, they will be costly. So there'll be an economic angle also involved in this particular issue. And social and behavioral factors, people are not aware. There is less education, less awareness, right? So these are some issues which are related to the adoption of precision technology in India, right? We do need transformation, right? We do need better productivity. A lot of agricultural land is getting diverted for industrial use, service sector use, and therefore we need more efficiency in production, right? So Tata Kisan Kendra, Tamil Nadu Precision Farming Project, these are some important case studies which have helped in increasing the yield as much as 12 times, right? So these can be used as good case studies while talking about precision farming. This is where one must be aware about the important developments in agricultural sector around the world. Hydroponics. Hydroponics is the process of cultivation of food crops without the use of soil. So one can see in this image, the cultivation is happening without the use of soil. So how does the food product receive its nutrients? Through water mixed with important nutrients, right here at these places. Similarly, there is something called as vertical farming. Farming at a space, enclosed space in a vertical manner. Thus, it saves a lot of space, right? These practices are happening in Tokyo, in Mumbai, and important places, right? They also help in organic farming because precision, along with precision, what inputs we give is also very important. And these methods of farming have become very, very important in the modern times. So let's quickly look at the article we have just covered. We covered precision farming. In India, precision farming is a requirement because despite having 18% GDP and employing a lot of people, we have some challenges in Indian farming sector, right? Please note down these structural challenges. A key word here is structural challenges, right? And you can use these small points. If you cannot recollect, do write them down. Otherwise, let's move ahead. Second one is use of two important technologies, big data, advanced analysis, and analytics, and robotics, right? These are two important ways precision agriculture works. How can it help? Write down soil and field planning, crop monitoring. Moving ahead, crop protection from weeds, real-time feedback to the farmers, and thus practicing climate smart agriculture, right? And monitoring the yield. So write down these keywords. What is holding the farmers back? One is resistance to change. The second one is economic issues. And the third is awareness, right? So write down these three keywords, pause the video and write them down. You can also note down the two important places where the case of Tata Kisan Kendra and Tamil Nadu Precision Farming Project can be mentioned, right? Okay, moving ahead. This day in history. Today is the day, 4 June 1989, when protests in China at Tiananmen Square, they became violent. They became violent. These were silent protests from the people of China. They wanted more rights. They wanted democratic freedom. They wanted the government to provide them employment to reduce the level of inflation in the country in 1980s. However, the government on this particular day repressed this revolution in a very strong manner. That is why this day is known as June 4th incident or 6/4 as well. Black Day in China's history. China also received sanctions from America and it was criticized world over for its actions. The building that you see at the backdrop is an important building, and that is why I've covered this as well. This is the Forbidden City of Beijing. Tiananmen. What is the meaning of this word? Tiananmen means the gate to heavenly abode. The gate to heavenly abode. What is the heavenly abode? This is the heavenly abode. This forbidden city in the old times was the residence of the king, right? King was also considered as God, messenger of God, and that is why the gate to heavenly abode. So there was a gate here to this heavenly abode, and abode was this forbidden city. Why was it called as forbidden city? It is still called as forbidden city. Right now it is a museum area and it is under UNESCO as World Heritage Site. It was considered forbidden because nobody could enter inside or go outside without the permission of the emperor, right? So this is a brief history of this place. Moving ahead, new snapshot. The first snapshot for today is about Niti Aayog's Sustainable Development Goal India Index 2020-2021. Just like United Nations has given Sustainable Development Goals 2030 to all the nations, similarly, India has also given these goals to different states, decentralized it, right? Now, decentralization helps in many ways. It helps in collection of data, understanding what are the lacunae in different places, and accordingly serving the interest of a smaller region and providing treatment, right? So on the same lines, 2020-2021 index for Indian states has been released. Overall, India has improved its stance as compared to the last year by 6 points. If a country has achieved 100 points, that means it has achieved all the goals completely for the year 2030. However, if a country has achieved 0, that means they are yet to begin, country or a state as well. There are parameters where the states have done well, and there are parameters where they have not done as well, probably also because of Corona crisis. The top ranked states in this indicator are Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Himachal Pradesh, the top three. The top UT is Chandigarh in terms of its performance. The least three performing states are Bihar, Jharkhand, and Assam, right? But overall, there has been an improvement in this SDG goals. Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is the one which records all the improvements and data, right? The main issue is that with the help of this kind of analysis, one is able to understand the reasons for the performance, for the issues in performance, and design strategies for helping these states to improve, right? Thus identifying priority areas and working on them. They also highlight the data gap because of which the statistical system could have a challenge, right? So in this article, what we understood was that India's sustainable development goals are measured through measuring the goals of various states. We understood about some top performing states, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Himachal. We also understood what is the reason we adopt this measure of decentralization, to be able to understand the reasons for lagging behind and design better strategies and understand the high priority areas. So write down these important keywords, right? Priority areas, differential priorities, write down the name of a couple of important states, right? You can put them as case studies. All right, moving ahead to the next article. The next snapshot is about an important report produced by International Labour Organization. This is the World Employment and Social Outlook report, right? Now, employment, of course, it is very much possible that labor organization should deal with it. Therefore, please remember both these words concurrently: International Labour Organization and World Employment and Social Outlook report, important for the pre-exam. They do keep asking such things. Now, what is this report about? This report talks about the unemployment levels. They talk about the labor force participation in all the regions around the world. It also presents the impact of Corona crisis and how this situation can be resolved. You can also use a very important data mentioned here. That is that there is an estimate of 8.8% working hour loss at an average because of Corona crisis in 2020. So around 10% of the working hours were lost by individuals because of the Corona crisis. You can mention it at various places in your answers. Write this important data. Now, the report also talks about increased poverty, which is a manifestation of such a crisis. It also says that though there will be recovery, but it will be insufficient to close the critical gaps, right? And the report also says a very important fact here, that there were efforts to eradicate poverty. However, because of this crisis, the world has reverted back 5 years in time. That means since 2015 to 2020, whatever efforts were put to eradicate poverty, one has gone back to the age 5 years back again, right? So these two important, around 10%, and this 2015 to 20 data, this is very important. You can put them in essays in case of issues with corona, employment issues, right? Economy, paper 3, etc., right? The report also talks about the recovery rate. Recovery at certain places will be fast, in developed countries will be fast, but in developing countries will be less. The report also talks about less inclusivity, right? For example, do you see an impact on the IT jobs, people working from home, finance jobs? Do you see an impact on the particular sectors like pharmaceutical? No, these sectors are booming. However, there are certain sectors which have been impacted very much. For example, hospitality, travel, tourism, informal sector. India has got around 90% of informal jobs, right? So these kind of job without social security, without employment, there is no guarantee. And these are the jobs which are most impacted. This is what the report talks about, right? Highly uneven impact and impact on low quality jobs, right? So please do remember this. What is the way out? The way out is to have productive employment in all the regions, right? And another way out is to sustain such foundations for institutions which promote inclusivity, right? So have foundations for institutions which can sustain inclusivity, and they will help in faster recovery from this corona crisis, right? So in this article, couple of very important fact we understood. Please note them down. One is around 8.8% work hour lost at an average in 2020. Second is gone back 5 years. Note down from here, right? Increased poverty and a very lopsided recovery for the low income countries as compared to the high income countries. It also talks about the low quality jobs and the highly uneven impact in particular sector, right? So please note down these star marked keywords. The next snapshot is about BRICS nation coming together demanding for reforms in international institutions. BRICS is an important forum because it represents 40%, more than 40% of population around the world. Also, many of the countries in BRICS, Russia, China, India, are very large in size. So therefore, since they have important weightage in global economy and population, their say is very important. And this time they have come together to talk about increased say in the multilateral system around the world. They want more representation in United Nations, in IMF. They also want to have a waiver in production of vaccination in South Africa and India, right? They are also talking about increased vaccine cooperation during these tough times of corona, reformation in United Nations Security Council, and also on a comprehensive convention on international terrorism. CCIT, Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, was one of the initiatives by India where India demanded for defining terrorism, for banning individuals as well as the institutions indulging in terrorist activities, and thus making world a safer place. Now, this infographics, it suggests many ways in which the multilateral system could help. For example, global governance, peace and security, development through sustenance, international relations between all the organizations and multilateral forums, right? So this is an important infographic one could remember. Moving ahead, image of the day. This is the image of an important seed vault in South Korea, right? This is not the size of it. It is all based underground. This is the entry of it, right? This is called as Baekdodaegan National Arboretum Seed Vault Center in South Korea. It is just like the Svalbard seed vault located in Norway. This is the one. The concept is very simple. It is based on the concept of Noah's Ark. That means preserving the genetic variety, diversity, so that during the times of crisis, urgent crisis, for example, climate change or sudden disaster, the diversity of Earth could be preserved. The diversity which was brought together with slow course of evolution should not get destroyed in a moment. And therefore, this kind of the seed vault can save itself from the earthquake and even an atomic bomb blast. So this is the image of the day. Moving ahead, terms and concepts. This is important from the pre-exam perspective. The first article is about NASA's mission to Venus. NASA has initiated 2 missions to Venus, the closest planet to the Earth. The 2 missions are called as Da Vinci Plus mission and Veritas mission. Both the missions are designated to understand the surface and atmosphere of the planet Venus. Now, there is a history to it. Venus was the first planet on which the people from Earth wanted to research upon. And therefore, there were various missions by NASA, by Russia as well, by Europe, and lately by Japan. And India also wants to launch a mission to Venus, Shukrayan, by 2024. This was the first planet to be researched upon because it was very close to Earth. Also, Venus is called as in Earth's twin because of similarity in size, similarity of composition, and density, right? However, Venus has got a very dense atmosphere. It has got dense atmosphere of carbon dioxide and gases around its surface, and therefore life does not survive at Venus, and therefore people stopped searching on Venus. Instead, they went to Mars, right? So this is the background to it. But now scientists want to investigate, because Earth and Venus also got formed in a similar manner. What is the reason that Venus does not have this kind of atmosphere right now, right? So they want to study if it ever had water, if there was ever a possibility for life to exist on Venus. So this is the crux of these 2 missions. Next article is about H10N3 bird flu, right? Now, this is the first case of bird flu spreading through this variety of bird flu, right? To humans, first case to humans, right? So it has become zoonotic. However, it is very rare. The also this variety H10, this variety of the bird flu is also rare in spreading itself. What are the more common varieties? H5 and H7. If you remember, H5N1, this was what had spread in the early decades of 2000s, right? The 21st century, right? So therefore, this variety is a low pathogenic, its transmission is low, and its transmission to humans is even low, right? So this is nothing to be feeling dangerous about, right? This is what is the news. Moving ahead, Section 51 of the Disaster Management Act. Why it has become popular? It has become popular because of a political issue between the central government and the government of West Bengal. This crisis happened after the union government wanted to assess the damage caused in the cyclone Yas in West Bengal. There was a delay in some meeting, and because of which the chief secretary was summoned. Later, the chief secretary was called on deputation, urgent deputation to the central government. He was not released by the West Bengal government, and later the center issued the Disaster Management Act penalization on him, right? He resigned from the service to become the advisor for the government, but since this act was in place, and that is why this act is in news. Section 51 states that there will be punishment for obstruction if one does not follow the directions of the government, center, state, or district authority, right? That is why it is in news. Political, however, this provision is important from developmental UPSC perspective. Next article is about Swastik technology for disinfecting water. Swastik has a full form in Safe Water and Sustainable Technology Initiative from Indian Knowledge Base. Now, this technology is a hybrid combination of the technology of Ayurveda, and the use of scientific measures to cleanse water. The idea is to produce water which can be potable. How does it do it? Now we must know an important principle that says that the boiling temperature will reduce if we reduce the pressure. So once water pressure is reduced, it will boil at lower temperatures. And thus, one of the mechanisms to kill germs is to boil the water. So one is boiling of water, and then secondly, using such Ayurveda disinfectants which are good for human health, however bad for the other biotic health, right? Microorganisms. So they kill the microorganisms and they also help in preserving the elements of water. Thus, Swastik is in news. Okay. Moving ahead, editorials of the day. Now, we provide essence to the editorial. However, there's a link to the editorial. Click on the PDF version or go on to the website, Gazette section, and click this editorial to read. Right? We provide the link because we want you to read and develop a perspective to the article. This article talks about the Reunion Island, which can be developed alongside Andaman Island, similar to how sister cities are developed. Sister cities is a concept where an Indian city, for example, an Indian city is picked up and it matches with another foreign city where they exchange culture, where they exchange their morphology, their planning, their developmental practices, the way the fund has to be utilized, right? Administration, everything. Similar to sister cities concept, the idea here is to develop Reunion Island with the help of development of Andamans, because both of them face very similar circumstances. For example, both of them are very strategic in nature. Let's have a look. Now, this is India. This is where Reunion Islands are located. Now, this is a very strategic position because it maintains a very, very critical position around the Indian Ocean, right? Therefore, India, along with France, they are trying to help and have some naval patrol around this area, right? So it must be developed on these strategic lines. This is what the article is about. Please read. The second article is about rethinking the value of water. It says that clean water is not available to many people, as many as 2.2 billion people around the world. And therefore, it has given increased significance to Jal Shakti Abhiyan. If you keep reading Gazette, you will come to know we have covered Jal Shakti Abhiyan a couple of times, right? And therefore, it has also suggested ways to restore water bodies in the country. Case study of the day is about the institution SECMOL, Students' Educational and Cultural Movement of Ladakh. They created a revolution in Ladakh by aiding an improved style of education in the region. Now, the issue was that in the 1990s, we had as many as 95% students, local students, failing in 10th class exam. What was the reason? The reason was one, non-Ladakhi language. Now, if the students would be educated in English, it was an unfamiliar language which aided nobody to understand what was being taught. Secondly, a lot of unfamiliar examples were used for teaching the students through the books. Now, if one uses terms like ship, ocean, monsoon rain, these are something people in Ladakh region have seldom seen, and therefore relatability was very less. There was rote memorization amongst the student, and this is what aided in many students failing. It was a miserable condition, and that is why this association of students in Ladakh region, they started an organization, SECMOL, and in 1994 they also started an Operation New Hope. This New Hope was actually a hope for all the students in that region. How? They helped by providing community ownership, by providing training to the local teachers, and most importantly, they changed the methodology of teaching from chalk, talk, and stick to child-centered, joyful, meaningful learning. And this changed the game for Ladakh student development, education development, right? They also developed material in the local language. What was the outcome? The outcome of Operation New Hope was that over 67% students, they passed in the examination, right? So what a beautiful case study of Ladakh region. Please note it down, right? The most important part, the things to think about is that mother tongue, it is a very important determinant in educating a young child. Gandhiji's thoughts as well, right? So note down this important case study, very relevant. Thank you.